Keir Starmer entered office promising stability after years of political chaos under the Conservatives, and yet what unfolded recently in Parliament could hardly have been more undignified, and I told you that I would talk about this week. And the British Prime Minister managed by the skin of his teeth to push his controversial social reform package through Parliament, but it came at a spectacular political price, the largest rebellion within his Labour Party since he took office. Starmer's reforms initially aimed to impose tougher criteria for accessing disability and incapacity benefits, a move he justified as essential for securing Britain's welfare system in the long term. Official forecasts warn that the cost of these social programs could balloon from the current £65 billion to over £100 billion by 2030, primarily driven by the spike in mental health cases post-pandemic. However, Starmer's attempt to contain costs quickly spiraled into a fiasco that even seasoned observers struggled to watch without cringing. Under pressure from nearly 90 human rights and disability organizations and confronted with a storm brewing within his own ranks, Starmer caved at the 11th hour, removing significant parts of the legislation. Originally intended to affect current benefit recipients as well, the reforms were hastily watered down to apply only to future applicants, drastically reducing projected savings from £5 billion per year to just £2 billion. But the parliamentary drama didn't end there. Just 2 hours before the crucial vote, Starmer and his ministers desperately scrambled behind the scenes to secure wavering MPs, promising a review of the entire benefit system before any new eligibility rules would take effect. It was a humiliating last-minute concession, showing Starmer's dwindling authority and strategic miscalculation. When the dust settled, 49 Labour MPs defied their Prime Minister, publicly voting against the bill in a scene described vividly by Labour MP Paula Barker as the most undignified spectacle I've ever seen. And indeed, it was a spectacle, one that laid bare the internal fractures and waning confidence within the Labour Party under Starmer's leadership. This was not Starmer's first brush with parliamentary embarrassment this month either. Just weeks earlier, he faced another rebellion when 16 Labour MPs opposed an infrastructure bill. But this latest debacle overshadowed even that setback, casting serious doubt on Starmer's capacity to lead his party and maintain control over his parliamentary majority. And perhaps most alarmingly for Labour, recent polls indicate that the party is now trailing behind the right-wing populist Reform UK for the first time, a dramatic shift that could significantly reshape Britain's political landscape. Starmer, once viewed as a stabilizing force, now appears more vulnerable than ever, his credibility severely battered by repeated internal uprisings. And the implications of this political turmoil extend far beyond internal party squabbles. For millions of Britons dependent on disability and incapacity benefits, the uncertainty and confusion stirred by Starmer's reforms represent more than political theatre. They directly affect their daily lives and future security. And critics argue that while fiscal responsibility is essential, the hurried and chaotic manner in which these reforms were pushed through risks leaving vulnerable people behind, precisely those who most need stable and reliable support. And Starmer's attempt to reduce social spending to secure Britain's long-term economic health may have been well-intentioned, but his political execution has been disastrously flawed. Instead of establishing stability, his recent actions have deepened divisions within Labour, not visions, I wish they had one, divisions, undermined public confidence and brought about an uncomfortable spectacle of political dysfunction. And his failure to build consensus within his own party, let alone the broader public, raises serious questions about his political acumen and the viability of his future leadership. As Labour now confronts growing competition from the populist right, Starmer's political survival may depend on his ability to restore unity, to rebuild trust, and convincingly articulate a vision that balances fiscal prudence with compassion for Britain's most vulnerable citizens. Without such a recalibration, Starmer's tenure risked becoming defined not by stable leadership, but by chaotic missteps and divisive spectacle. Moreover, the recent spectacle has given ammunition to Starmer's political opponents, not the least Jeremy Corbyn, who have eagerly seized on the disarray to portray Labour as unfit for governance. The Conservative opposition, still licking wounds from its electoral defeat, has not hesitated to highlight Labour's disunity, suggesting that Starmer's leadership style is inherently divisive and unable to command the loyalty necessary for effective governance, although it didn't help the Conservatives at all. They should look at the German Conservatives at some point. At the same time, Reform UK, buoyed by its recent surge in the polls, is capitalising on Labour's internal chaos by appealing to disaffected voters who perceive Starmer's leadership as indecisive and ineffective. Internally, Labour's MPs, party activists and grassroots supporters are growing increasingly restless, questioning whether Starmer's leadership represents the progressive and united future they envisioned. The rebellion and subsequent concessions have emboldened critics within the party who now feel justified in challenging Starmer's centrist, pragmatic approach, calling instead for a return to bolder, what they call more progressive policies, what I call more left policies. Meanwhile, disability advocacy groups and human rights organizations continue to warn of the potential social consequences of the reforms, even in their watered-down state, pointing out that restricting benefits could worsen social inequality and disproportionately affect the most marginalized groups. And all these factors combined place Keir Starmer at a crossroads. He must decide whether to persist with his current strategy, if he has one, risking further fractures and declining public support, or adjust course significantly to re-establish his leadership and party cohesion. Well, the coming months will reveal whether Starmer can overcome these political wounds, but the recent parliamentary spectacle will long serve as a stark reminder of the precariousness of his position. And if you want to see another video right now, the next one is right here in the end screen.